Did y'all go in the secret place? I hope so. I hope so.
All right. The experience that God had.
All right.
Yes. This week, well, no, I mean, this week we're just going to look a part two to what we talked about last week, and which was a really good conversation on the secret place and what it means to be in the secret place, and how to get to that secret place. And I mean, we dove into a great amount of revelation on what it means. I mean, we had the definition of dwell, we also had the definition of secret place, and I mean, we went. It was good. Like, we were up here just like, what? Are you serious, Lord? Like, huh? And I mean, we were getting that theomusis on the spot revelation. That's what theomusis means, on the spot revelation.
Just learned it.
Word of the day, theomusis. But we were receiving that theomusis, so we were just kind of rolling with it and flowing with it. And so we're just happy to be here again on tonight. I want to congratulate all the elders and ministers that spoke this week, but this month. It was Apostle Sabbatical month, and so it has been a month where he's gotten to rest, and the leaders of this ministry has gotten to step up, and we've spoken some powerful words. Elder Blank spoke on Saturday.
You two Negroes. You two Negroes. Y'all spoke. Darius, you brought a side that I know was in there. I was like,
yeah, I gotta go back on
Facebook. Go on Facebook.
And look at all of them. They're all there. Every single message, and even Prophetess Pollard and then Elder Beasley on the second Sunday and on the fourth Sunday, they were dynamic, and they just truly brought what we've been talking about this month to a great close. I mean, tonight it kind of all came together last week when we were talking about sonship and how you have to be a son in order to be in the secret place and be intimate and all of this stuff. And I mean, it just all came together at one time, and it's like, oh my God. And before we even get into tonight's lesson, I mean, I just have to ask, like, what were some of the highlights of this month for you?
Whew. I'll go first. For me, some of the highlights was transformation, transfiguration, going and diving deep into those, and I noticed how we all kind of utilize those terminologies in our messages, from you to me to Elder Beasley. I'm not sure if Prophetess Pollard used them.
Yeah, she
Okay.
used sonship.
Yeah. So, like, and even just the definition of son that, the elders we all get, and together, to go even into Bible study with the secret place and talking about the vetting of the heart and the technologies of intimacy and, communing and all of those, like, terms. I just think that this month has been awesome for education wise. So, even from, learning how to, as a son, how to strip things off, and then learning as a son even more of how to, be restored, having your sonship restored, and learning how to use your words, how to speak it, and then even learning how to not let the enemy play mind games with your mind to even think like a son. So it just was an awesome month, and it all connected. I found every week it was connecting, like the Bible studies would connect to the Sunday, and then the Sunday would connect to the Bible study, and each message connected to each other. It just kind of was, like building blocks and continue to build off of one another. So it was just awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree. I just love the cohesiveness of everything and all the topics. Like I said, how everything came together, how everything kind of bounced off of one another and flowed off of one another. And I was proud of myself, because I don't, I'm getting out of the don't want to. So that was my highlight, the getting out of the don't want to. Cause last year when I did this, even though I did it with CJ, we had the reel at the way. We were doing it off movies and everything, but this year was a little bit more of a, like you said, from an educational standpoint, and actually have I'm almost gonna say have fun, almost a little bit, you know,
I think we had fun
a
last
little
week.
bit of fun doing it, and I don't know, I was just pretty proud because you know it's I didn't see myself in a position like this where I could be used in this way, in the way that God used me with especially the first two episodes. You know, God really did his thing with the flowing with the revelation on some stuff. I'm like, okay, you know, I didn't know I could think like that, or you know, he could drop some stuff like that on me. You know, so it was a nice experience for me. But yeah, I just loved how everything connected. I loved seeing um, how all the messages intertwined. I love seeing everybody come out of their shells. I love seeing everyone's personality come out. You know, everyone stepped up, and you know, no one reflected apostle. I mean, like we reflected his teaching and his education, but everybody had their own personality. Everybody had their own individuality in their messages, and I just loved it. I was loving it. I
Oh,
feel like a cheerleader in like, yeah, go y'all.
I mean, for me, it was. I will say I stepped out of a comfort zone that I truly wasn't ready to step out of.
Cause you were married, you in this Mary and Martha story. I was like, okay, come on.
Yes, Mary and Martha. I mean, those were. It challenged me at a level where I wasn't ready to even be challenged. I'll be honest. I will let everyone out there know that as leaders, everything that we preached, we all have lived through. And that's one of the things that I think as up and coming leaders that you need to understand, that you need to know everything that you preach, every word that comes out of your mouth, you will go through it,
Oh yeah.
either before your message or after your message. Now I know for me, I preach on a Sunday and then I had to preach on a Saturday, so I had 2 weeks of God bombarding my heart and God bombarding me about, okay, Elder Murphy, you're doing too much. You're not spending enough time. You're not doing this. You're not doing, or good job on this part. Good job on that part. So I think for me, it was really learning, hey, how to live my message. I can,
Yeah.
this is the message that I live. And we have to live our messages because otherwise we wouldn't get this revelation. We wouldn't get this, the words to say to you if we didn't live our messages. And what Apostle says is true. You have to go through what you teach. And I believe it really reflected in this month that, hey, we have to be intimate. We have to go into the secret place. We have to become sons. And we have to, sons and daughters, excuse me. We have to be that. We have to be those people. And in order for us to be true leaders, we have to live those messages. We have to live everything that we go through on a weekly and monthly basis. So
You will get checked.
you will.
You will
And
get checked. Cause I sure was studying and I was like, he shows like, you can't be teaching on intimacy if you not doing it or spending on time to be intimate.
Exactly.
To understand how to explain it. I was like, you know what, you right.
I mean,
You right.
but that comes with. I mean, that comes that's a sign of maturity. Like, and I mean, even in our, and I know we'll get to tonight, but even in the how do I say it? Even in the definition of son and sonship and things of that nature, it talks about vetting. So for me, it was like, I'm trying to make you a son, so that means I gotta vet your heart. That means I have to check you and give you checkpoints and see if you gotten to those checkpoints or if you're being lazy or not. But that comes as a sign of maturity. I mean, I don't know how many times we have to echo the definition of son.
We did it quite a few,
We
but-
did. I mean, we've all done it, and I mean, I'll go back into it.
Excited.
What is the definition of a son?
I really love that definition.
I mean,
to be honest.
And I do too, but can I say something before you
Yeah,
get
go
to the
ahead.
definition? One thing that I also noticed about this month, and in regards more so for me, and I don't know if the rest of the leadership found this to be true for them as well, but for me it was very hard, even though the Lord gave me the message, it was hard for me to study for it.
Yes.
because, and I was wondering why that was. Like, I would try to study for it and just, either not finding the time or it not manifesting and not coming to fruition.
Yeah.
And then I realized when I did my Saturday message that I was living it. So I couldn't study for something that I was, I was living and going through.
Yes.
So it literally just had to exude and pour out of me because I was already living it.
Yes.
So, and even to just like, he gave me the message months and months before this, like back in like May or whatever, but it was just like what it was then. It changed by the time August 1st hit to where it wasn't what I thought it was gonna be.
That is so true. I got my message on Memorial Day. I was sitting at grandma's house, and I wasn't sitting. I was standing in the front at the kitchen sink, and I was cleaning all of this meat, and I was just so tired. I mean, I cleaned like 10 slabs of ribs, and I mean, I truly cleaned them slabs of ribs. You can't eat no dirty meat, but that's neither here nor there. That's a whole nother story for a whole nother different day. But I'm cleaning these ribs, and I'm like, and the father was, I heard the privilege to serve, and I'm like, oh, and I ran out. I said, Apostle, the privilege to serve. That's gonna be my message. And he was like, okay. He was like, where's it come from? I said, Mary and Martha. That's what I'm gonna preach about. And then it just over the couple of months after Memorial Day, it transferred. No, it wasn't Memorial Day. It was 4th of July. Sorry, 4th of July. Yeah, 4th of July. I'm cleaning all this. And so over the month, honestly, over a month, it transformed from being a servant into understanding what a son truly is, and how as a son I get to serve in the kingdom, and not just be a lowly. I'm going to say a lowly servant, but how not to just be a servant in the kingdom, but truly be this son that the Father has called me to be.
For sure.
And I mean, let's read the definition again. We go one more time for your ears. Like Kirk Franklin said, one more time for your holy mind. It says, son is a person who occupies a position in Christ that has been matured, transformed, and transfigured by the process of vetting through intimacy and reflects the DNA and character of the Father. I mean, we all have this entire month. I believe we've all gone through a process.
Yeah.
We've all gone through a process to get to this position that says, hey, I am a son. And if I'm not living this son life or son lifestyle, then let me refocus my mind so that I can get to that place. And then once I get to that place, okay, Father, or before I get to that place, Father, why am I not, in this position? Am I at an immature level? Has my heart not been vetted? Do I spend enough intimate time with you? Do I have enough, this, that, and the other? If you have, again, the Way Nation, if y'all have questions, any questions about anything that any of the ministers or elders have preached, go ahead and send them in. I'm just going to make it a question and answer night tonight as well. So if you have any questions, go ahead and send them on in. And if you guys have questions or things, let's talk and discuss. So we have to figure out where we are, and I believe this entire month it has set a basis for what Apostle is getting ready to go into. It set a foundation to say, hey, this is what a son looks like. This is how a son reflects. This is the DNA of a son. This is the character of a son. And now Apostle can, and it was like a catapult where he can say, okay, now let's go into, I don't want to give away what he's preaching, but he's preaching sons arise. And so in order for sons to arise, we have to know what a son is first. And it's crazy how it all is going to connect for the next quarter of the year. So go ahead.
I'm glad that this is continuing because I just kind of feel like, how when we had that series of revival and it went on for like a few months and stuff, I feel like that's how sonship is gonna be. It's gonna go on for a while. It's just kind of gonna be like a movement because it's time. It's time for people to really realize that just being believers, just being representatives, it's more to it.
Yes.
It's a lot more to it than, you know, just serving in the church and reading the Bible. Like, all that is good, but there's so many. There's a deeper level to it. There's more depth to being a kingdom representative. There's more depth to the lifestyle that it comes with, and even just getting to know the person who you are representing.
Yeah.
Like we said last week, like that's one of the things God agrees about. The fact that people don't know him to the point where they have a relationship with him. And I feel like this is the time where he's transitioning believers from that slavery, that servant mentality to really walk and live in sonship.
Yes.
And from all spectrums. Like before this, I didn't even really, like, I heard sonship, but like before all this, I didn't even have this depth of what a son really is. Like, you know, I guess I was just, you know, going with the flow. I won't necessarily say well, I'm kind of in servant mode, I guess, to a degree. Because we didn't have this depth of a revelation. It's different when you're studying it for yourself, at least for me.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes I'll hear apostle preach about some things, but when I actually go back and read something or go back and just look at it for myself, then it really clicks. Like, oh, okay. So I'm glad we had this time, because it actually made me for myself do that studying that's needed to get that revelation and to, you know, really realize, okay, it's a lot more to this kingdom thing, this God thing, this son thing, than, you know, the surface level of what people have heard or may not have even heard. I'm sure I don't hear people talking about sonship in other churches I've been to. Like, this is the first place that I really heard sonship been broken down. So, and even with for me, even intercession has that was a process for me. Like, trying to see how to put words to it, to articulate it, but like it's like, as a son, you have to grow in all levels. Like we said, you have to grow in the way you speak, in the way you talk, in the way you talk, and the way you think, even the way you worship. Like, we had to get the people to a point where, you know, as sons, we can't give surface level worship.
Yeah.
As sons, there are depths that we have to go to bring the Father in, and to come to a place where we can submit to the transformation of being a son. Like, in our worship time and in our intercession time, I feel like that's also been a place where he has been working on people to begin that transformation process, to begin that vetting process, to bring the people to places of things they need to let go that are not reflect that they are not good. I can't talk to that. To get them to let things go that are preventing them from going forth in sonship or reflecting him the way that he leads them to as sons.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
You said something about revival, and when I think of how we were in that season of revival, I don't think we've left that season, because I think what Apostles getting ready to preach with the Son of Rise series is that we're reviving what sons are, and he's reviving really. I mean, we've started. I feel like it's like an earthquake where the tectonic plates start to shake, and you know they start to do this, and then you know they move fast. And I feel like we were the catalysts for what he's getting ready to go into, so that there can be that revival of sons in the earth.
Oh, revival of sons.
You know, I mean, truly, it is. It's the
That's
revival of sons.
Like, he probably back there like, let me take that, let me read that some stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
He's probably got a program already going on in his brain. But truly, like, sons need to be revived in the earth. Like, we were sons at one point in time. I mean, look back in Genesis. He was a son. He was connected to the Father. He was always there. He was mature. Like, Adam knew exactly what to do. Move to Matthew and Jesus. Jesus knew as a son. He was in his Father's house, doing his Father's business. He knew he reflected his Father in all aspects. He spoke the words
Mm-hmm.
that his father would have spoken. You know, he didn't have to do much hand laying. He just spoke it, but he had the mind of the father. He
Mm-hmm.
understood the father. So as sons, we have to get back to that place. We have to get back to the place where we as sons just speak and things manifest. Where we think about something and it manifests. You know, I look at Acts 3. Silver and gold have I none. They knew they didn't have to have wealth to pick this man up.
Mm-hmm.
They were sons. They knew, hey, let's speak to it. Let's pull this man up off the ground, and we gonna keep going. You know. So, how do I say it? There has to be a revival of sons in the earth.
I mean, I would agree. I think that, and I think Elder Beasley's message kind of talked about it. I know she used the parable of the prodigal son, but you know, even with him coming back and like kind of going back into his place and not, you know, being ostracized or alienated because of him, you know, leaving out and going his own way, going astray, so to speak, but he was welcomed back in by his father and was allowed to, you know, take his rightful place. So even, you know, I would liken that for, you know, us in the earth, in the world. Like, you know, he's waiting for his sons to arise. He's waiting for, you know, his sons to realize who they are and come back home and take their rightful place, you know.
Definitely.
So I think that that's definitely true.
We got a question. You got?
Yeah, I was just saying Miss Sheila asked a question.
Okay.
She asked, would you explain vetting?
We explain vetting. Whew. Vetting.
Oh,
Who
Lord.
wants to take that one? Man.
Well,
We talked a little bit about it the second week, because that was one of the technologies of intimacy that we went over. And when I looked up vetting, it said to subject to usually expert appraisal, assessment or evaluation or correction, to examine for flaws, to check carefully to make sure it is acceptable. So basically, you getting assessed for everything that does not reflect him, and he is going through that process of uprooting it out. And
Yeah.
that's not an easy process at all.
I got a definition. It says another one. It says to make prior examination and critical analysis or detailed evaluation of something. So I think about, you know, my favorite show was Scandal. I love it.
Rest in
And
peace, Shannon.
when, you know, or rest in peace, Scandal, for real. And then rest in peace on How to Get Away with Murder. Because
Can we revive
Shonda's just
Scandal, please?
okay.
Sorry.
But you know, Scandal is one of my favorite shows, and a lot of presidential, you know, shows that have to deal with presidents are like my favorite shows. And so they have this thing. Did you vet? I am a nerd. They be like, well, have you vetted this candidate? You know, when someone is getting ready to take a position, or they're a high ranking position in the government, you have to vet them. Meaning, you have to look in their background. You have to go into the nitty gritty, the things that you never would have thought of. They go back all the way from when you was a baby and say, okay, well, did he slap somebody at 6 years old? And is he good enough to be president? You know what I'm saying? So, but they vet you. They go in. They examine. They truly go into intricate details about your life and about who you are. And that's what the Father does. He goes back. He goes in. He goes and looks back at 6 and says, okay, you slapped somebody. Why did you slap them? Let's figure out what's going on in your life at 6 years old that you just slapped somebody. What triggered that? Now let's figure out the triggers and the traumas. What happened? And he begins to lay out a detailed list and say, hey, this is what's going on. This is why it's going on, and let's fix it. And like you say, he goes and he just messes it up. What do you Then you want
I
to explain
mean,
that?
for me, I would think like kind of like last week how we said, check your bait. So kind of like checking who you're with, but it's like also like in that same token, God has to check us, and so He's assessing us and checking like, and really going and digging deep. Like I even think of like people when they're like searching for gold and diamonds, and they're going through and they're really digging deep and like really sifting through the dirt to like find these precious gems and things. He's really going through all of the filth and the muck and the mire that may be on the inside of us to see like, okay, yes, this is here, but why is this here, and what happened to for this to be here, and what do we have to do for you to to get this out of here. So I think it's a very long and arduous process, but it's also a process that we as sons can participate in, because it's like sometimes if you take it to him willingly, then he doesn't. The vetting is not as hard or harsh, because you're like, okay, I know I have this that I'm struggling with or dealing with, so let me go ahead and put that on the altar, put that on the line, so to speak. Whereas opposed to him like, okay, you don't want to be forthcoming with what's going on inside of you. So now I gotta sit you down and tell you you're filthy, you're nasty, you did this last night, you was over here, you did that, you did, and kind of just reveal it like that. So
Yeah, I feel like vetting is basically one of the tools that's used for that transformation process, for that
transfiguration
the
process.
transfiguration process, the reflecting his DNA and his character, because he has to prune and strip off the things that don't reflect his character. So he literally has to go through it and pluck out those things, purge out the stuff that's not like him, or the stuff, even the stuff that you just been through in life that has reflected your perception and your perspective of things, and your behaviors, and all that stuff that's in the reservoir of your heart. That's like the vetting is. The vetting process literally goes into those places in your heart too. I feel like vetting and inner healing is literally connected, because he goes into the garden of your heart to deal with different experiences or things that you've been through that have made you this person that he didn't create. That's made you this person, or who you think you are, or just has changed you into, made you the angry person you are, and it made you the defensive person you are, with these different coping mechanisms that doesn't reflect him. So I feel like vetting literally goes through and deals with those things, and just breaks all that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
For sure. So I hope that answered your question, Auntie Sheila. So hopefully you understand the vetting a little bit more. It looks like you have another question, so I'll go ahead and read that one.
Woo-hoo.
It says, is God waiting on us to realize our sonship so we can take our place in heaven, or wanting us to real, and it kind of got a little dicey there. But I'm going to go with the A portion. It says, is God waiting on us to realize our sonship so we can take our place in heaven? And I can even start to answer that, and I'm sure you guys have something off of that as well. But I would say not even to take our place in heaven, because we're already seated in heavenly places.
Right.
So, we're already in our place in heaven. Like, it's just, he's waiting for us to realize the heavenly place that we already have, and manifest that on the earth. Is what he's waiting on us to do, because we're already seated in heavenly places. Even, with all of the hell that could be inside of you, you're still seated in heavenly places. So your place in heaven is already established. It's already there. It's already, it's already laid out. But he's waiting on you to take what you already have in heaven and bring it to the earth.
Yeah, and I think he's waiting on us to have that revelation so that we can know who we are and walk in it, and live up to the potential, and live the Sharina, like I think Sharina talked a little bit about it. There's certain things you don't have access to if you're not walking in sonship.
Yeah.
Like especially if you are in what was it, orphan,
Orphan ambassador.
orphan ambassador mindset. Like there's just certain things that you don't have access to if you are not walking in sonship. And if we need to get to that place where we realize who we are so we can basically live to our full potential, not live below I don't know, not live below I don't want to say it wrong, live below our means.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I'm trying
Live
to say.
below who you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what
I mean, I firmly believe that he's waiting for us to manifest what we have in heaven here on earth, and get that revelation of us as sons, and that says, hey, we don't have to live in a servant's mindset. Adam didn't live in a servant's mindset. Adam lived in a son's mindset.
Right.
When he spoke, animals came out. He said, you are an elephant. And an elephant came. You are a dog. And the dog came. I mean, species. Roof, roof. But that's what Adam did. As again, Jesus, he came back as a son. Come out in the name of Jesus. Come out in my name. Come out. Be free. Be healed. I love that we say that in our house. Be healed. Now where's the pain? Grab hold to it as quick as you can. Grab it by faith. And as a son, when you grab it by faith, oh man, instantly, I'm healed.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. But even like, I guess shameless plug, but you guys should have been tuning in on mine. But even like in my message, what I was saying, like, with the power of words, I realized as I was studying for that, like, yes, your words have power, but you also have to have faith in the words that you're speaking to know that, yeah, I said it, but it's gonna happen because I said it and I have in what I said, and that's the difference between like a servant who could be like, I'm blessed and, still be, in poverty, but a son saying like, I'm abundantly supplied,
Right.
and all of the favor, and stuff coming towards them. So
it's like a boldness and a confidence that comes with realizing that you're a son.
Yeah.
right.
Yeah. And I think you answered your question, Auntie. You said, or realize our sonship to bring the government we lost as humans. So, yeah, I think it is to bring back the kingdom government and revive what we lost due to sin. And hey, let's bring that back. Okay, so let me start speaking some words. Let me realize that I'm a kingdom citizen. I have dual citizenship.
Yeah.
I have citizenship on this earth,
That's
but I have
right.
citizenship as a king, in the kingdom as well. So there's some things that I can speak in the kingdom that will manifest on this earth. There's some things that on this earth that I can say as a kingdom official that will manifest on the earth. So hey, let me speak these things. Let me abide by the government of heaven, but also abide by the government of the earth as well, as a son. So yeah, we do. We have to bring that kingdom. Donald Lawrence said it.
It's funny. Oh, I want to punch you because I was thinking of that. He has a song called Kingdom, and it speaks of that.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he says it best, Or let's get back to eating, live on top of work. And I mean, yeah, it was a great, great song. And I think people became religious with it.
Yeah, that's what
like
I'm
they
saying.
do with, and I think they missed what he was truly
Yeah.
saying in,
Revelation
as a son.
Right.
So there has to be revival of sons, and even with the law of confession. I mean, Donald Lawrence wrote that album. It's wonderful. But it's the law of confession, the laws that you speak out of your mouth. Your words have to abide by certain laws. So if you say something, then they have to. It has to go. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Isn't it
Even
crazy
heaven and
how
earth.
Revelation just family when
Right.
you're a son.
Right,
When you
exactly.
think like a son.
Yeah.
When you think like a son, when you speak like a son, when you know what a son is, when you've been restored as a son, when you've gone to your intimate time as a son, you know, you everything. It's like the scales fall off your eyes, and you begin to see who you truly are as a son. I don't have to look. I do not have to do some things that the earth is that are earthly bound. I do not have to abide by some of these rules because I'm a son.
And it's funny because like I said, when I was studying, for my message, that was one of the songs that like I was listening to and I heard because he speaks about the law of confession and whatever you release out of your mouth, if it lines up with what God has said, you're just
Keyword.
right. If it lines up with what God has said, not with what you said or what your mama said or Auntie Betty said, but if it lines up with what God has already stated, then you can confess that.
Yes.
And that's the law of confession, which is also a declaration as well.
So
they're reinforcing what was already stated.
So I mean, I feel like the 66, the Bible, is like
it's a filtration system.
It's a filtration system. It's a manual as well to say, hey, this is boom. This is the Constitution. This is what you can do as a son. Yeah. This is what you cannot do as a son. And if you're not reading the word, if you're not reading it even from a perspective of a son, then you won't get it. Because if you study looking at it as from the perspective of I can't talk from the perspective of a servant or as a slave, then you'll only see, oh God, please do this for me, right. Or God, get me out of this, or God, can I do this, or God. And God's like, why do you keep asking me these questions? You're a son. You should know.
He's standing there like this because he's waiting on you to do stuff and speak
to stuff.
It's within our realm, our scope. Mm-hmm. He's like, you guys have dominion over the earth. So I got heaven up here. I need you to get control of earth. Cause
down here.
Because that's what you have dominion over. I got heaven
I said let there be light, I gave you that. Genesis 1:26, I gave you dominion over the earth. And over this, that, and other, the creepier things. I can't stand that scripture. I love it though, but I can't stand it because he be like the creepy things that creepeth upon the earth. I be like, look.
Which one?
Does that creep you out?
Yes.
What is that? Luke 10:19.
Right, I be like, ooh.
Because the Luke 10:19 talks about you have authority over.
That's serpents, right?
Yeah.
Serpents, demons, and yeah, all of that. And I'm just be like,
you got dominion, you got authority,
you
got power.
Creepy things that creep over the earth. I be like, why they gotta be so creepy? But then I think back. I mean, if you even look at Genesis 1:26, I'm gonna go to it really quick. If you look at Genesis 1:26, it tells you what you have dominion over as a son. It tells you why you have dominion over it. Genesis. Let me get to my Bible, Lord Jesus. In the. Yeah, I know that. I said Genesis 1:26. Lord, I went to Genesis 26. Okay. It says, and God said, let us make men in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and over the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and over all the earth, and over every creeping thing that creepeth upon the earth. I look at that scripture at over every creeping thing that creepeth. There are some things. I mean, yeah, we think insects and plants. No, I believe the Father is really talking about the things that creep in the night, the things that are manifesting in front of us that shouldn't be. Demons, this, that, and the other. He's talking about that. Right. You have dominion over this. As sons, you have dominion over it. You have a dominion over the fowl of the air. But you have where do the fowl live? They live in the air, so that means you have dominion in the air. You have dominion. This earthly realm is our dominion. So when we speak to it, it is we take our mantles and we speak to it. We flex our mantles and we go into these territories and we take back the land. we there's so much bloodshed. Sons, hey, let's speak and say, I decree and declare that there'll be no school shootings this year. Or when we when intercessors pray.
I was just praying about the school year and the kids coming up missing or killed, bullied, all that stuff.
That was on my heart as well.
But how many other intercessors are praying? And if there are intercessors praying, are they on watch? Are they on the watch at 3 o'clock, 6 o'clock, 9 o'clock, midnight, 3 a.m., 6 a.m., 9 a.m.?
And that even just comes with the realization for them to even realize, one, hey, I am an intercessor. Two, what a watch is.
Mm-hmm.
Three, like what is grieving the heart and the mind of the Father to know what should I be praying for, you know? Because like I said, that was also on my heart the other day, like, praying for the school year and the students and making sure like that nothing happens, because that's something that's on God's heart. He doesn't want his, young children and young sons and daughters dying.
Yeah, let's put the guns down. I mean, the kingdom suffers violence, the violence taken by force. Stop.
80% of people I don't even think know what's
I was gonna say, people don't have a context of that scripture, because what that scripture is saying is that the violence that's happening in the kingdom is not necessary. It's not like somebody shooting your little baby cousin. That's on the earth. The violence that happens in the kingdom is what the enemy is doing to try to take the kingdom from God and from us. And what the violence that's taken by force, that's us taking it back from him as he's trying to take it from God. So that's the context of that scripture. We gotta look at scripture in context.
And so us as kingdom officials, let's take the scriptures let's take what's in the 66 and apply it or speak it into what the earth is saying, or speak it to the earth, so that this can stop. Certain things can stop. There's no way we should be having more mass shootings than we've had days in this earth. I mean, in this year.
Right.
Where are the intercessors that are praying? Where are forget just the intercessors? Where are the people that are just?
Where's
the sons?
Come on, y'all, come on.
Like, where are the
Open
sons
your
that
mouth,
are praying?
son. Where are you, sons? That's what the Lord is saying. He said, I got so many people that want to call me Father in prayer, but yet you won't open your mouth as a son and release and ask and even, prophesy or declare some stuff that I'm asking for and that I'm needing and yearning for in the earth. His heart is really grieved at his earth, because he's like, this is not what I created.
Yeah, it is not what I created. And us as sons, we have to understand the mind of God. We have to go, and that takes intimacy to us mind. That takes sitting down and having a conversation. Come, let us reason together to understand his mind, to understand what he wants in the earth, what issues does he want in the earth. I mean, the prophetess probably hit it on Sunday, and even in our staff meeting, we talked about talking and reasoning with God.
That was impromptu.
That was so impromptu. I mean, I was angry with God because, and I'll be so transparent, but I was angry with God because I'm saying, God, how can you let? And no, I hear me when I say this. I pray for my president. We pray for our president, because that is what the word says. There are some issues that I may not agree with, but if the father has a sentiment on it, then as a son, I must go with him and not necessarily be a robot and just agree with him, but go with him and say, okay, God, what is your sentiment on this matter? Why do you want this? Why do you have this? Help me understand why this happened. And once
he will,
and he will definitely help you understand. And once he helps you understand, then you can say, oh, well, okay, this is what I think. Well, why do you think that, son? Because this is how I was brought up. Well, just because you were brought up that way doesn't mean that you should say this. And I'll say this: I don't agree with everyone on everything. So we're not going to agree with our president on everything. However, if the sentiment of the father was that he needs to be president, or that he is going to be president, if that was the word that he spoke in the earth, then that is what needs to be manifested on the earth. And I'm not going to.
And it was.
And
regardless of
your opinion.
Your opinion, or who tried to fight against it, And I mean, I was very, very, very mad when that happened, because that wasn't who I was, voting for. Not to make this political, but then I had to realize that this was God's choice, and the reason that why God had to put him in that position was because his sons weren't praying before. And now it has his sons looking like, oh, now they're looking at CNN and they're looking at the Amazon rainforest and all this stuff going on. And now our eyes are tuned to world affairs when our eyes should have been tuned into world affairs in the first place.
And I have to say this, I'm gonna go on a rant. Now some of these prophets, and some of the prophets, and I'll be so honest, some of these prophets they set up there. God said that Donald Trump will not be president. God said this. They will not do this. God said that he will not. What deity were you hearing from? What God were you hearing from?
They were hearing out of their
were you
soul.
hearing out of your soul? Were you hearing out of what were you hearing from?
You can hear from your soul. You can hear from deities. You can hear from your flesh. So where were these people hearing from? They were
Because you
hearing
didn't
from
like the
Father
man.
God.
And I understand there are some things that I do not like about his rhetoric, and I don't mean to make this political. There's some things I may not like about his rhetoric, but if if God has said that he is going to be president, then I cannot find the scripture, but the word says pray for the ones that are in leadership.
Romans 15.
Romans 13 and something. So, but it says pray.
Read Romans. It's in there.
Romans
Romans.
Romans will get you that. It'll transform you.
Yeah.
But truly, it says pray for the leadership. So
Yeah,
because now that he's president, and you heard wrong, or I won't say that. I won't say that you heard.
They heard from a place
you
that
heard.
wasn't.
You heard from the wrong.
You heard wrong.
You heard out of the wrong.
You heard wrong.
You heard wrong.
From
And
the
I mean
wrong
that.
place, from the wrong person.
Right, and from the wrong deity. So what deity were you listening to, and were you really tapped into the Father, or did you just have preconceived notions about this man, or about this, or did you judge him because of what
heard
he
from
said in the
prejudice
past,
or bias
or discrimination, things of that nature? Did you hear that? And that comes with all prophetic words. Kingdom people, watch the words that are coming from these prophets, so-called prophets, non-prophets, prophetic people, this, that, and the other. Exactly. That is right. Vet your heart. Vet your heart.
Ooh. And even I will this is going all kinds of different ways, but this is why I love it. But anyway, like I would say, because I went to a conference of Apostle Paula Price's conference. Her daughter, Chief Prophet Tyler Price, spoke, and she explained what a prophet is. A prophet is a specialist. A prophet is a specialist. A prophet is a professional. So when you think of that, oh, this person is about to tell me about my next 2 years, no, it's deeper than that.
Yes.
They have mastered
Yes.
what they do. They've mastered it, and there's so many things that go into the technologies and the functionalities of a word.
Yes.
Making sure that you're saying it in the right time. Is the atmosphere even conducive? Is the climate even conducive for what you're trying to release out to the earth? Did God say that? Is the seasons even in alignment with what you're saying?
Yes.
Is the person, why is this word even coming forth into the earth? Is it warranted, or are you just speaking because you want to speak and open up your mouth? Is it warranted for this person's life? There's all types of words, malfunctioning words, damaging words, hurtful words. So just realizing that we can't just speak to speak. It even made me put a hush on my mouth. I was scared to prophesy because I'm like, I know I hear the Lord, but I'm just like, I wasn't thinking so deep into it that, no, I have to really check, like, okay, where is this word coming from? Why am I giving it? What are the backgrounds? Like, what's the atmosphere? What's the climate? What's the ecology? Like, what are the factors that lie into this word?
Yeah.
Is your heart right?
Is your heart right?
Is your
And
heart
that's a
right?
malfunctioning word, because your heart can be wrong when you release a word, and that word can start to malfunction in the person's life
Yes.
that you released it into.
Yes, and if people,
That is so important.
I really truly believe, like, like you say, as a specialist, when you go and you attempt to get into these fivefold offices,
And so many people want to be in a fivefold office. Matt,
oh my God!
let me tell you this. First of all, let's first of all, let's get from slave to servant, and then servant to son. Why don't you master being a son first before you try to get into an office and get a title? You're still a bastard, you're still an orphan, you're still a servant and a slave, and then you want to try to say, oh, I'm an apostle. You're not even a son, he don't even know you. That's not your daddy. You're not an apostle, you're not a prophet, you're not an evangelist. You're a little heathen that's trying to get a title that you don't even need or belong to.
Yes.
And then you wonder when everything goes wrong in your life. When you try to step into these fivefold offices, there's persecution and there's things that come with these offices. And if you're not really called and ready to be in that office, your life will go crazy. It will run amok because that's not what you were called to be. Be a plumber, but be a son first.
I will say this. Before I got I was in the eldership position for like 4 years.
Jesus.
Before I even was ordained. Now, I was licensed for about 2.
Where it's good tonight,
you know, and Apostle said, what was it, 2013, 2014? He says, okay, you're going to be an elder. And when he said it, I was like, no, I'm not. But it had to grow me, and I had to go through a process. I had to become mature. I had 2 other people on the side of me, but maybe they weren't ready.
You should have seen my face when he said you're gonna be a minister. Excuse me.
Right. Who wants a title? Who wants, number one, when you get in the title, when you get a title, you get an attack. And that's what people don't get. When you get a title, you get an attack. And if you are not ready to handle that attack, then you don't need the title. And that's that. And people they vie for these titles, they vie for these positions because they think it's going to give them wealth, they think it's going to give them money, but you're doing it for the wrong reason. The motivation of your heart is totally wrong, and you need to be slapped.
Right. And I also, for me, I would even venture to say that some of them they want it for identity purposes.
Yes.
Because they don't know who they are as a individual and as a person. So it's like, oh, you know, when I become apostle this or prophet this or evangelist this, I feel identified by the title that I have. When as we spoke about, going into the intimate and the secret place of the Father and letting Him show you who you are and Him identifying you. The title doesn't identify
exactly.
you.
My thing is people define and they put these offices in like a box. And I'm gonna steal this from Apostle. He's the best copycat I know. He's the best cat I know, so I'm gonna copy it. Just because he said this. He said a 12-year-old can father a child. That doesn't make him a father.
No.
Being an apostle, fathering, that's the lowest thing on the totem pole. And then there's multiple other things. Pioneering churches.
That's like
if you think getting the word from somebody,
they legislate.
My thing is, as a pastor, if you think just loving on your sheep, that's all it is, no, that's not being in the office of a teacher. Let's be honest. Being a teacher is an office.
Yeah, it is. It's a 5 office.
An evangelist. Oh yeah, I appreciate
outside of the church. The greatest work that an evangelist does happens outside
teaching.
Your teachers teach them.
They teach them. They teach them the word.
Come
Then
on.
the people start to shift in their church and make the church bigger than what it is being.
Right. And it just shows that you need all five together to accomplish education into.
Yes.
Because we all know that the word says, my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. That's why the teachers come in.
Just a second. I'm gonna tell you this. I got it slow.
Yeah.
And but
This is good tonight,
and
guys.
I will say this, and I will be honest with this. The leadership of this house, they all either have a degree and are pursuing another
Of some sort.
Takes God. You take one step, God will take two. Nowhere in the word does it say that.
What does that even mean?
God will just take this one step.
Steps in the first place.
God's like, I'm seated on my throne. I'm not getting up.
Get a diploma or something. Shameless plug. Ignite is coming soon. Have a degree from Ignite. No, you will be proud for the degree that you have from Ignite, because you will get great teaching. However, it's not a biblical title. Like, who put you at the head of the church? Who put you in the front of the church? Who said that you are going to, bishops are going to be at the top of the church? Right. No, apostles and prophets. They are the foundation. You have to have them. And if you don't, then your church is not functioning correctly. Now, there are some great pastors, and you probably have an apostolic call on you, but hey, Dr. R.A. Vernon, he calls himself a senior leader now, right? He's a senior pastor of the Word Church. Man is apostolic to the fullest, but he loves people. He loves his people, and he'll hug them. He'll do this, for his people. So, but he has an apostolic call. He's just not gonna call himself an apostle. He's the pastor. That's neither here nor there. You gotta have apostles and prophets in your church. You gotta have them in your church in order to be. You gotta have them educated. Everybody's not called to be an apostle. Everybody's not called to be a prophet or a teacher or an evangelist. Some of y'all are not called to the fivefold. Yeah. You're just not. Some of you guys are helps, administrators. I can't even think of what else Corinthians. I believe that was Corinthians that says that. You're not called to be in the fivefold, and it's okay.
It's okay.
It's okay. I don't want to be an apostle. I don't want to be a prophet. I don't want to. Who wants this?
Yeah, this is not things that people want.
Right.
But when God calls you, you're called because you're called before you're even born.
You're right.
So no one can make you a prophet or make you an apostle or an evangelist or any of these things. When you come out the womb, you are already that.
And let me say this: as an apostle, you have to realize that you are a government official. You're not just hi church. I'm an apostle. I wear a shamir and a rochette, and I have this and I have that and I have an armor. No, you are a
A lot of
kingdom
people can't
official.
even spell the words of the stuff that they go.
You are a kingdom of, you are, like, really, you are a kingdom idiot. I agree with that. It look
Come
hot.
y'all.
Even with just the robe, like the robe we have, no, it's hot. And I'm fat and it's hot. Like,
And when that don't drop, it's even
it's
hot.
even, it's more hot.
Lord
So,
Jesus.
so, but as an apostle, you are a kingdom official, and you know these five folds. You are a kingdom official. You are a kingdom specialist. You specialize in all this stuff. When we go to college, you're a nurse. You have to take another test in order to be a nurse, and even after you being in the nursing field for so long, you'll have to take more tests or get more specialties.
Continuing education.
Continuing education. You want to be a lawyer. As a lawyer, you're going to have to continually take classes to understand what a different law has come into. You're a specialist. You understand what you want to be. As a banker, I'm gonna tell you, I know I'm a specialist. So if you want a job, it is not just something where you can go get $50 for speaking at this engagement and that and other. No, it takes work. It takes time. It takes education. It's just like you going to college. And when you get that degree, you become that specialist. But yeah, tie back together some way.
I was gonna say, and I'm hoping that you guys are understanding the sonship. You're understanding what it is that we're speaking on. I know we kind of went off on a tangent, but that's the leading of the Holy Spirit. But it comes with knowing that you are a son and knowing what your identity is and being intimate in that secret place with Abba to know,
Yes.
okay, I am this not because this is what I want to be, but because this is what you see me as.
Yeah.
This is what you called me to be. And so that's how you bring it back in, you know, because he's just trying to bring us back in. Because his people is like all over the place, and he's just.
Any final thoughts that you guys have?
Ooh.
We got about 5 minutes left.
What is the time?
It wasn't enough time. Like, can we stretch this out to 8:45? Is there a way? No.
I gotta go to Chick-fil-A tonight. Amen. Any last words that you guys have? Take a minute, and we actually got about 3 minutes, so go ahead, take a minute, and just say your last words for the evening.
That's a way.
I mean, I just hope that everyone has grasped that it takes intimacy to be a son. You have to go into, you have to prioritize and be consistent and persistent with that intimate time and going into the secret place to go through those levels of transformation and vetting and transfigurations that you need to go through in order to become a son. So that's pretty much the basis of the entire month. And it's gonna continue to go deeper as the apostle comes back. But just for the foundational thing, I just hope that everybody understands that, there's more depth to being a son, there's more depth to relationship with God, there's more depth to a kingdom representative to being a son. And in order to get the understanding and the revelation for all of that, it takes intimacy. And that is the whole basis of intimate talk.
I would say for me that this is something that you can't just learn in a month. And we try to squeeze sonship into a month. But sonship is such a vast topic that you can't even teach it in a month. So you got a little taste, a little sample of what a son is. But really going back, watching these messages, these Bible studies, these Sunday messages, looking at these notes. If you haven't asked Minister Shannon to send you these notes, having her get a hold to you so you can get the notes to really kind of to grasp and take in everything that was taught out and that was released, so you can even have a standing and a foundation for what Apostle is about to bring. Because Apostle is about to bring a whole manual, a whole like a whole training manual as to what a son is and what a son does. So we laid the foundation, and he's gonna take what we did. Yeah, this was the pre-rec. He's gonna take you
coming with the
and
main courses.
This was
you finna have your degree classes.
was-
We was Gen Ed.
this
Right.
was right. This
This
was
is Gen Ed.
sonship. I was gonna say
Son
sonship
101.
101.
Right, you're gonna take you to 201, 202, like 252, like
You're
you're,
gonna be in 458 in about
you know.
in November. I'm letting
But I also want to say that I'm gonna talk to Apostle, and maybe he can
be faithful. Morning service.